And as we do this time every Friday, we check in with KTBB owner, General Manager Paul Gleiser with You Tell Me What's on Your Mind, sir.
Good morning, Garth. We are sponsored by KE Cellars, Tyler's Old World Style Boutique Winery in the French Quarter on South Broadway, across from Broadway Square Mall. On September 16th, 2011, 5 days following the terrorist attacks of 9/11, Continental Airlines CEO Gordon Bethune laid off nearly 11,000 employees, about 20% of his workforce. Bethune's action was breathtaking in both its scope and in its swiftness. To one degree or another, most other airlines ended up following Continental's lead. Bethune took such a dramatic step because he recognized the dramatic nature of his problem. Airline demand prior to 9/11 had been weak. The country was in a mild recession following the bursting of the dot-com bubble. Bethune believed that 9/11 would make things much worse. He believed that the aftershock of the attacks would be bad for business generally, but bad for the airline business most particularly. He believed that revenues would be sharply impacted and that absent a major reduction in costs, Continental would run out of cash and be unable to continue operating. So he took immediate and dramatic action. Employees that were on the payroll when they woke up on September 16th were not on the payroll when they went to bed that night. Airplanes that were in use on September 16th were pulled from service and parked on September 17th. It wasn't pleasant. Immediately cutting 1 in 5 workers in a single stroke is extraordinary. It's painful to the workers who get cut, of course, but it's also painful to the workers that remain on the job and are expected to pull up the slack. It's a huge blow to morale. Cutting such a huge percentage of the workforce so suddenly is a sharp stick in the eye. It gets one's attention. Yet difficult as it was, Bethune faced facts and did what he had to do. Business owners and corporate executives, the ones that survive anyway, do this every day. The U.S. is in much more financial trouble than Continental Airlines was in on September 16, 2001. Yet no action on the scale of Gordon Bethune's response to 9/11 is anywhere close to happening in our government with respect to reducing spending and getting debt under control. In the current debate over raising the nation's borrowing limit, not a single proposal, from the Boehner Plan to the revised Boehner Plan, to cut, cap, and balance, to the Gang of Six Plan, to the Reid Plan, to whatever Obama is thinking that he refuses to write down plan, to even the Ryan Plan, not one plan does anything to seriously address America's crippling debt. Let me say it again. There is no credible proposal on the table, not one. Oh, animated arguments and fatuous speeches swirl about us, fraught with high vocabulary and ominous tone, speaking of cutting $1.2 trillion or $2 trillion or $4 trillion or some number spread over 10 years. Such rhetoric, though, is utterly without meaning when one realizes that the deficit for this year alone exceeds $1.6 trillion. Each Congress is sovereign unto itself, so putting forth a plan that plays out over a decade is nothing but theater. The 112th Congress can do nothing to bind the 116th Congress. So when a member of Congress talks about savings in the out years, he's using a Washington term that in English means never. The only way out of the box for America is to make dramatic cuts in the current year, and then to do so again next year, and then again the year after that. And the only way the cuts will be sufficient is if they bring about an enormous amount of pain, an enormous number of federal employee layoffs, an enormous outcry from affected constituencies, an enormous condemnation from lobbying organizations and rent seekers and public employee unions and the alphabet soup of trade and consumer organizations headquartered in Washington. Only when the shrieking becomes deafening and only when members of Congress who vote for such cuts require personal protection will it be safe to believe that America's fiscal crisis is finally being addressed. Only then. As of now, we're nowhere close. That's my word. What's yours? Go to youtellmetexas.com and you tell me. Very soon, I'm going to have an announcement concerning new red wine choices at KE Cellars, and I'm looking forward to that because, as I keep telling you, I am a red wine guy. But that announcement is still a few days off for now, given the endless streak of 100-degree days. I'm continuing to recommend the Kiepersol 2010 Texas Vit and the Kiepersol 2010 White Zinfandel, a white and a blush. Both of these wines are served chilled, and chilled is a good thing when it's this hot. How chilled? Well, if you're really, really hot, you can pour either the Vit or the White Zinfandel over ice. Now, I'm really loving the Texas Vit. It's cool and refreshing and is just sweet enough without being too sweet. But don't take my word. Visit KE Cellars and tell them I told you to pour a tasting sample of both wines so that you can see for yourself. You can do this because KE Cellars is a working winery with a tasting bar. Try any wine in the collection before you buy it. You simply cannot make a mistake. KE Cellars, Tyler's Old World Style Boutique Winery in the French Quarter on South Broadway across from the mall and online at KECellars.com.